That's timber for the targets being dragged out. More timbers going out to the target. Back out.
Roger, stand by.
Guns loaded, I'm out of here. Waiting for quiet for the shot.
Okay, this is shot number one. Shot number one.
You have to just do what feels right for the picture. And if you've got a cannon duel between two ships, it has to be oppressive.
After the impacts, there'll be some of this stuff flying around. And maybe a couple of the young kids will grab one as a souvenir. That's what I would have done.
Background action. Action. All hands down.
We have gone into and researched about sounds from the period, or sounds of these tall ships, because wherever possible I wanted it to be the real thing. I wanted it to be as close as we could get.
Doing the real thing was the only way to go. So we set in motion this process of finding cannons and a location where we could fire the rounds safely. So we located these enthusiast collectors and through them a National Guard base which has an artillery range, and we're able to get permission to record on it. And in the 2 months since we had set this up, they had, based upon historical drawings and dimensions, cast all the shot, round shot, bar shot, chain shot, grape shot.
This is a 12-pounder quilted grape shot. It's 2-inch diameter balls, and there are 9 of them in the stack. It's fastened to a wooden sabot, and something like that.
This is approximately what a 12-pound shot would be. This is what it fired. I guess it's from movies that I've seen that I expected the cannons to just have a big boom, almost like an explosion. When in fact we got to Michigan and started firing the cannons, we found them to have a much more piercing, kind of sharp sound. Very clear and almost modern sounding. The 24-pound cannon had a very odd kind of bell-like tone when we shot it. O'Brien does mention some of the shots having a bell-like ring. I mean, he uses a lot of adjectives, leading me to wonder how many of these he actually heard in life, or if they were based upon period descriptions that he read, which is what I suspect it was. But Peter wasn't a big fan of the sound, and it's kind of a little bit too odd. Much of the physical effect of being by a cannon when it goes off is the amount of air that it moves, and you feel it, your body feels it, and a lot of it resonates in your chest cavity. To try to achieve that on tape takes a lot of experimenting and a lot of trying the mics in different odd arrays and different distances from the gun. We'd get a completely different sound miking the guns close than miking the guns from a distance. We had microphones set up nearby to get the kind of the close crack and mechanism of the gun, and I was on a snowmobile with a DAT machine and a stereo Neumann microphone, and I would get about a half a mile or a quarter of a mile away and get actually much more boom from that distance than I would from the close mics, and that's where we derive the kind of the power and the subwoofer information for the cannons. And we found that each shot sounded different, and the cartridges were pre-packaged they wouldn't be exactly the same from shot to shot. They'd be tamped down at a different amount. You know, each gun crew would be operating their gun just a little bit differently. We wanted each event in the life of a shot to be distinct. And so the beginning of that is the firing from the gun. The second portion is the traveling of the shot through the air. The instant of this shot hitting the side of the ship, which we made from various, sweetened it sometimes with a little pitch down rifle shot to give it a really sharp attack. But that event is literally only a 24th or so second long. It's a very short event because right after that all the shrapnel flies inside the ship, which is what did the most personnel damage, the flying splinters of oak. So we tried shooting the cannons at wooden targets, which we built. So we're going to set up 2 PZMs on these banks that we're creating, and then 2 shotgun mics on either side, and found the results to be very anticlimactic. It didn't have the definition and the life and the articulation and the detail that we wanted from the images that Peter shot, which are incredibly dramatic and terrifying. So we spent several days firing pieces of wood, shrapnel, dowels, all sorts of things from a slingshot over microphones to get that sound of things spinning, tumbling, flying by the mic, and then layered those layer upon layer, 50 layers deep for each hit. In the movie, you see 1,000 splinters. We might have 200 things happening within the space of half a second. For those kind of things, that we built a mortar out of pipe and did a series firing off all kinds of things, primacord and plastique explosive and black powder. Put a paint can in the mortar to give it a projectile, so hopefully we get some of the sound of something exiting the gun. But that was never going to be a substitute for the cannons. That was kind of our road to get to the cannons. We did that and we thought that was pretty good, but realized that doing the real thing was the only way to go. We were recording black powder muskets in a canyon north of Los Angeles, and trying all kinds of different miking techniques, trying to get that good crack, but also a good solid resounding boom. Finally, just through an accident, found that laying a microphone on the ground, aimed at the ground, about 150 yards from the gun, actually gave us a great solid boom. By itself, it's not a great element, but added with the crack of the musket, it just adds that subwoofer information that you expect from a gun. I did a movie a few years ago called Rob Roy, in which there were a lot of black powder muskets, and we did a lot of recording of live muskets and listening. Most of the movie was shot at Fox Baja, which is right beside a major highway. There was just a lot of atmospheric noise from the studio itself, from the highway, from aircraft. The gimbals the ship was built on made noise when they moved, so if the ship was meant to be rocking, they made hydraulic noises and metallic clanks.
There are those among us thought ill of Mr. Holland.
Sometimes they would have wind machines going to give the illusion of wind blowing across the deck. They used jet engines to generate that volume of wind, so obviously all the sound was unusable.
On a typical day during the storm, we would have 2 enormous wind machines with hoses in front of them that are sort of spraying out rain. And then they decided that wasn't enough, so they put 2 hurricane jets behind the ship, also with hoses in front of them.
Yeah, it's not the best environment for an actor to work in, so they were basically just all yelling at each other, which is what the reality would be in that situation anyway. So the dialogue is all going to have to be done ADR in post-production.
It's no reflection upon the production mixer, who did a great job. It's just the environment that he was presented with was really a difficult environment to record in. But everything in the storm sequence is looped. I'm guessing 50 to 70% is looped. All the other sounds were added. Some of the original recordings were brought back in because it was thought by Peter that the performances were stronger in the original recordings. So he wanted to go back to production. But the Surprise has about almost 200 people on board. It's about 120 feet in length. You know, it's a very crowded ship. And the analogy that Peter used was that it would be like living in a tenement building where you're always hearing a voice or hearing a footstep or hearing an odd noise that's maybe undefinable, but it's just the sense of humanity all around you. Bob Kaiser, who's the ADR supervisor, did weeks of looping in England to get the voices of the crew, just an odd shout here or there, a laugh, murmuring. On the Rose itself, we recorded the crew moving around on deck from below decks to get the sense of people moving about. And that's in the film. Peter really liked hearing all that stuff much of the time, so we're almost always hearing humanity around us. I did some research to try to find a situation where we could put ourselves on a ship at sea in a storm. Ultimately, it didn't seem like a workable way to approach it, partly because the wind and the sails and the ocean would all be married together. And we wanted to layer each of those things individually and thus record each one individually. So we rigged a sail from the Rose, which was the Surprise in the film, out in the desert where it's very quiet, there's no environmental noise whatsoever. And spent several days just kind of playing this sail.
Sounds amazing out here, but it's too much creek off the wood. Well, the old spinnaker, she gave it a good try.
Get a real job, it's much easier. And 90% of the wind in the storm scene is wind from that wind truck, groaning, some animal sounds, but mostly human sounds. But they're very low and they're bedded deeply into the track, so they're strictly there for emphasis at certain key points. We were able to come in a couple of days after the shoot had wrapped, and the producers were gracious enough to let us utilize the set of the Surprise for a day, and we'd positioned these dump tanks above the ship. We spent a day just dumping water in the ship, about 50 times, and again tweaking the mics and getting it just exactly the way we wanted it. We were able to record these by miking from underneath the deck. It's a crack sound recording team discussing strategy.
How many decks we've got?
And miking from the rigging. I was sitting on the bowsprit about 3/4 of the way out to get kind of the close-in impact of the water on the deck. By elevating the bow and lowering the stern, the dump tanks were on the bow, we could get both a great crash and a very fast runoff. The water would rush down the deck very rapidly. So not only got the sound of the crashing water, but also got the subsequent trickling of the water below, which is very important in the film, and which we see in the storm when the men are below decks. There's a lot of water kind of works its way down from the deck. And working on Far Side of the World was that, because sound is a part of the drama and the sense of place and sense of history of the film.